Good morning. It's quite bright in here today. I didn't even have to adjust my exposure at all. Oh man. Brad is home today, so if you can hear noise, background mumbling, murmuring sounds, it's probably him. He is directly below us right now. Literally directly below the floor I'm sitting on. So, hi, welcome. My name is Leigh. I'm here today in quite sunny, actually, Pittsburgh, PA. It is beautiful clear skies today, clear blue skies, and warm. It was hot yesterday. We had to turn on the air conditioning. And yes, this is a place, a casual spot where we sit and talk about crafting and creative endeavors. This is a creative podcast, primarily focusing around fiber crafts, knitting primarily, but also some crochet, sewing, cross stitch, and whatever I feel like getting into, but primarily knitting. It is entirely knitting today, so that's fun. And do I have anything else? What else am I supposed to say? Oh, what I'm wearing, because I'm wearing a hand knit today. I am wearing the Rift Tee by Jacqueline Cieslak, or Cieslak. I don't know how you pronounce her last name exactly. Let me see if I can stand a little bit. I'm wearing just bike shorts. But this is my, oh, boobs falling out a little bit. This is my Rift Tee. It has a cute, like, ribbed detail down the side and a split hem. And it is the perfect, most casually fitting comfy top I have made. Is honestly one of my most worn knits. I would make another one, I think. But also another thing that is great about this top is what it's made out of. It is made out of linen, 100% linen, and that makes it so cool and crispy. I love a crispy thing. And if you see here, it's got a bit of an open gauge. Very cool in the warmer weather. A little bit out of breath from moving my body around like that. I worked out yesterday and am sore. So moving around, like finagling myself in front of the camera is a little bit painful. I don't know what got into me yesterday. I wanted to do some upper body exercises. So yeah, it's a little bit warm up here also, which is not great. I'm really glad I decided to wear something light and breathable. If you hear the AC kick on, I'm not sorry because I need it. Well, but there's a vent right behind me, so you might hear it. I'm not sure, but it is warm. And we're upstairs in my house right now. The studio is upstairs and it's warmer up here than it is downstairs. It is in fact cold downstairs, as it is in an old house. There it is, the AC just kicked on. Feels great getting the breeze from behind me. All right, it is currently 11:08 on Monday, April 25th. I can't believe April is almost over already. Time is going too fast for my comfort, I feel. I have bugs hitting my window. God, everything is waking up outside. I mentioned in the last episode that I was ready for spring to be here because I think it snowed during my last episode. I think, but I'm finally getting my wish. We got big old fat carpenter bees outside floating around like they do. I love it. They're so cute. There's one right outside my window right now. Let's get started about talking about actual knitting stuff, because that's what we're here for, right? Knitting things. If you're new here, I did mention that this is a generally creative podcast. Yeah, it's generally creative. I am, for my day job, an illustrator, so there will be some art updates sprinkled in here and there whenever I have something exciting going on. But knitting, I have an FO heavy episode for you today. I hope you're ready. I have been very much in a finishing things kind of mood, and I will talk about why later in the episode. But first things first, we have 2 pairs of finished socks. The first pair of socks I'm going to show you is actually the mystery sock set from Northwoods Fibers for April. So if you ordered this and you don't want, like, it's already been flashed on screen, but I'm going to hold it up close. If you ordered this and don't want spoilers, don't look. This is a self-striping sock set, and I just finished this pair of socks yesterday. All right, I'm about to show them in 3, 2, 1. Aren't they gorgeous? This is a self-striping colorway called Painted Desert, and I didn't do any contrast on the cuff, but the mini that came with the sock set I used for the heel and toe. And these are for me just in my vanilla sock recipe. I think what I'm actually going to do is put my vanilla sock recipe down in my description, so if you're curious about that, you can find it there easily and quickly. I wear a US women's size 9 shoe for reference. But yeah, I'll put my vanilla sock recipe down below, and anything else that you have questions about, I will have a link to my Ravelry page below so you can see all of the projects. Every project has its own project page, unless otherwise stated. But yes, these are done, and they're beautiful, and I love them. They are not washed yet, so they look a little crispy, but that's fine. I'm so excited. They're done, they're done, they're done. I have been on a mission to finish all my socks. Again, I will get into that a little bit later. But that's my first FO. All right, you're safe to look now if you got the mystery sock set from Northwoods Fibers. The second finished object I have is another pair of socks. And these are my Balrog of Morgoth socks with dog hair on them. And these are for Brad. This is a sock set from Tiny Human Knits, and she is doing a Lord of the Rings inspired self-striping sock yarn every month for the first 6 months of this year. And this is the one for March, I believe. It might have been April. I can't remember. But this is the Balrog of Morgoth, and I love this yarn. It is so much fun. I bought enough of it. I bought 100 gram skein so that I could make a pair for Brad and for myself. So another pair of these will come at some point. But yeah, this is Brad's pair. The way I knit his socks are pretty much the same every time. It's basically his vanilla formula. I do 68 stitches instead of 64, like I do for myself, and I do his ribbed. He gets either a 1x1 or 2x2 ribbed cuff, depending on how I'm feeling. These are 1x1, and then he gets a 3x1 ribbed leg and top of foot, and just the normal fish lips, kiss heel, and wedge toe. He wears a US men's size 10 shoe. And I think this is the best fit I've found for him yet. It took a lot of experimentation. I don't know why it's so difficult to find the perfect fit for other people. But that's them. My second FO. I love these so much. I believe, I believe this sock yarn, this was also a set, by the way. There was a mini for the heel and toe. But this yarn is an 80-20 blend, 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. And the Painted Desert sock yarn is the same. So both 80-20 sock faces. Great, I have another FO. A whole nother one, 3 FOs. That's wild. This one actually, to be completely honest, isn't completely finished. It is mostly finished. But we're gonna pretend it's finished today for the sake of the podcast. I won't show it again unless I'm wearing it. But here is my Seaborn tee. Piece of buzz on it. My Seaborn tee. You can see how it's mostly finished. I have some ends left to weave in, but I'll probably just kind of like work on them casually. I end up going through these things where I'll get a bug up my butt sometimes to just do a whole bunch of finishing stuff. So I'll weave in the ends on like everything that still has ends to weave in, or I'll go ahead and preemptively weave in ends on projects that I have going. I'm waiting for one of those times to come so that I can weave in all of the ends left on this guy. It is lovely. Like, the fit is lovely. I tried it on. It feels so nice. It's like wearing a thunder jacket because it's so heavy. It is worsted weight, 100% cotton. The stripes on camera look positively neon, but I'm so pleased with this. It's got this gorgeous little like twisted scallop shell, like twisted stitch scallop edging on the bottom and the sleeves. I only did 2 stripes on the sleeves, which is a little bit shorter than the pattern calls for, but it's oversized and boxy, so the sleeves are plenty long enough. Like, there's my elbow, see? Yeah, I didn't want them any longer than that, but I love it. I absolutely love it. This is a pattern by Hannah of Herb Garden Knitwear, and it is a short sleeve summery top, but it is knitted in worsted weight. But actually, I can't remember if she recommends a plant fiber or not, but I knit mine in a plant fiber. It's 100% cotton. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I'll be able to get rid of some of these tags. It's starting to get wild in here. I'm using Juniper Moon Farm, their Nev base, and it is 100% worsted weight Peruvian Pima cotton. And I am using the colors, or I used, I'm so glad it's done, the color 33 Hot Espresso for the main color. It picks up strangely a bit on camera, but it is a like grayish purpley brown. And then the contrast color is number 19 Limelight. And I can get rid of these. So exciting. I have a little bit of tidying up to do. I have some ends here where there is a jogless stripe, and the stripes themselves will even out a little bit once I weave in the ends. They look a little strange because the ends are just still loose. So I have a little bit of tidying up there, and around the sleeves there's a little bit of lumps where loose ends are dangling. But yeah, I love doing all that tidying with weaving in my ends at the end, because then I know it's exactly just so, rather than trying to do it as I go. And that's done. That's done. It's a whole garment done. A weight lifted. That's it for FOs. All right, for whips, we have only one pair of socks. Now, this isn't the only pair of socks I have going. I have 2 pairs of socks going. One has been put away in like hibernation. It's in my knitting basket, but it's in my brain it's in hibernation because it's a Christmas pair of socks, or a pair of Christmas socks. So I'm kind of keeping that one like in the back of my mind, but also not, because I guess I'll talk about it now. I have been wanting to finish things, like greatly, a great need to finish things. I want to clear off so many of my needles. I actually want to clear off all of my sock needles, which is why I bring up that other pair of socks, because I haven't quite decided if I'm going to try to clear off that pair of sock needles. I don't know. I'm on the 2nd sock, so I could if I just like hunkered down and did it. I guess we'll see how long I have after this pair of socks, because I want every sock off of my needles before summer sock camp. I will be participating in summer sock camp again this year. I've done it for the last 2 years, I believe. I think I've done it every year it's happened. I can't remember if that's 2 or 3. But it is a knit along for the entire summer, hosted by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady, if you hadn't heard. And I love it so much. I participated last year and finished more socks last year than I had ever finished in a period of time like that before. I finished 12 pairs last year, and I would love to make at least that many this year. 12 seems like a reasonable amount, but I'm also preparing more this year. Last year I didn't prepare at all. I just kind of like willy-nilly did whatever I wanted. But I would like this year to actually prepare by clearing all of my needles, all of my sock needles, I want to clear off all my sock needles so I don't have anything lingering, and I want to get all of my garments in a place where I don't feel guilty not working on them for 3 months. I would like to get at least one of them that I have going done, besides this one, of course, because this one is done. That would make 2 garments done. And so I feel no outside pressure to work on anything but socks. I would like to just take 3 months and only knit socks. Yes, sounds like the dream. So because of that, I'm trying very hard to get all my socks finished and be reasonable with my sock cast-ons, because the only other pair of socks I plan to cast on before summer sock camp are my May stripe socks, because I think summer sock camp starts at the very end of May and I can't wait until the very end of May to start those. But if I get this pair that I'm about to talk about finished before the end of the month, what did I say today was? April 25th. If I can finish this in the next few days, then my striped socks for May will be the only pair of socks I have on the needles, except for those Christmas socks. And then I should be able to still finish those before summer sock camp starts. That is the plan. And that is where my head has been lately. Now, that being said, I do have a new cast on today, but don't judge me. I would not judge you. And we can talk about it when we get to it. That'll be the last whip I talk about because it is the only new cast on I have. For now though, we will talk about this. This whip is in a Delaque bag that I purchased from my local yarn store. And these are my waffle socks that have been lingering. If you've seen any of the previous episodes, you will have seen these. These are a pair of socks for me, and I'm using my vanilla sock pattern listed below. I just inserted a texture into the leg and the top of the foot. And this texture is literally just 2 rounds of knit 2 purl 2 and then 2 rounds of just knit, alternating forever. And it makes this really fun little waffle texture. These are going to be so warm and squishy when they're done. They are knit out of Little Lionhead Knits tweed. Little Lionhead Knits. The color is Earl Grey and Lavender, and it is the BFL tweed base. It is 85% superwash BFL and 15% Donegal Nep, which means there is no nylon in it to strengthen it. BFL is a sturdier yarn than merino to begin with, so these would probably be fine. But I did decide to experiment a little bit with some strengthening techniques, and for the heel and toe of this sock, I held it with this Regia reinforcing thread. Come on, why are you acting like this? There we go. This Regia reinforcing thread. It is a merino nylon blend, but it is really fine. So just experimenting with that, seeing how these wear after that. And I have finished one whole sock, and I am still on the leg of the second sock. I have not been going very quickly on these. The first sock flew by, but then I delegated these to being my computer knitting, and they didn't get much work because I don't have a lot of downtime on the computer. I'm usually, when I'm at the computer, I'm working. So these have only gotten like, I think I may have just finished the cuff when I saw you last, or was in the cuff. So I just got that much of the leg done, and that's it. But still something. And now that all of my other socks are finished, these are the only socks I have going. So primary sock knitting now, so they should go much faster. That is that. Yeah. Like I said, if I forgot anything, I will have my project pages linked below. Next whip is in this Woodsy and Wild shawl size bag, like medium shawl size bag. There's the tag, Woodsy and Wild. It's very cute. I actually don't know if I've worked on this very much since I spoke to you last, but it's here, so I guess we're gonna talk about it. This is my envelope cowl. Oh, I really haven't gotten very far since I talked to you last. This is my envelope cowl. It is a infinity loop cowl that is knit in the round, and it is a design by Samantha Guerin. And it's got these really fun honeycomb, slip stitch honeycomb textured sections, and then a couple of stripes. And when it is done, it'll have 3 sections each of a honeycomb stripe, honeycomb stripe, honeycomb stripe, and then be Kitchenered together or grafted together, and that's it. I have, since you saw me last, only done a couple of honeycombs, like honeycomb rounds. Yeah, each honeycomb round is 4 rounds, so that's really not all that much knitting. This one just hasn't been, I mean, obviously it's been lingering for a really long time. I started this like, I can't even remember when, months ago, and it's still going. So obviously this is a lingering one, difficult for me to like keep, it doesn't keep my attention. I go through like bursts, but I'm getting close now, so I really should. I think I mentioned in the last episode that I might make this like my morning knitting. I really need to do that. I didn't knit on it this morning because I was doing something else that I will talk about, but I think I really am going to delegate this one to my morning knitting. And for the yarn for this, I am using, for the color, Spin Cycle, ooh, hold on, Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool, in the color Space Oddity, which is super fun. And then for the fuzzy white parts, I am using 2 strands of Camarose Midnight Sol held together. And this is an alpaca, tinsel, and merino mix. Got fuzzies tickling my nose. So it's like it's a mohair alternative, but it is very soft, very squishy, very good. And this is the color local LYS beige. I almost said local yarn store beige because in my brain that's what I see LYS as, but I don't know if that's actually what that means. I'm pretty sure it's not. And I love it. It's very soft, very squishy, and it's pretty mindless to knit on when I want to knit on it. You know how it goes. And that is that. Next whip is, I only have 2 more, and one's that new cast on I mentioned. But the next whip is in this mystery yellow bag. I don't know where it came from, some random shop on Etsy, and it's got my knitting pins on it. And this has my trumpet pullover in it. This is the front. My trumpet pullover. And this is what I was doing this morning. I bound off the bottom. Look at that. I did a tubular bind off, and I did pretty much all of it this morning while I was sitting down drinking my coffee. Last time you saw it, we were at this Progress Keeper here, which is about here, the top where the Progress Keeper is. It is a little lemon bar from Pitter Patter Polymer. And I did about twice the amount of ribbing they called for, but I really wanted to finish that entire ball of yarn, and I didn't mind if the ribbing was longer because I was honestly looking for a little extra length. I still haven't tried this on. I really need to. I literally just finished it before I came up here. I like finished it, stuffed it in the bag, and walked right up here. But it's beautiful and soft and lovely. It's so funny that it looks so much more yellow on camera than it does in real life. It's a little more cantaloupe-y in real life. Like I look at the camera and then I look down and it looks like cantaloupe when I look down compared to that yellow. But this is a pattern by a designer that I will put on the screen here because I cannot pronounce her name and I don't want to butcher it. But it was designed for Woolfolk for their Fleck collection. And it's got this gorgeous cabled raglan that I love. It's got a really deep yoke, really deep armhole. And it will have slightly oversized sleeves and a really long cuff. And it's just gonna be so comfy, so cozy. Very excited to have this. I only have sleeves left. And sleeves usually fly by. Ooh, I'm falling to the side here. All right. Now, The yarn itself is Fiber for the People. This is my last hanked up skein to go towards sleeves. I also have a freshly caked one in the bag, but I'm doing some like yarn management to make sure my sleeves match because this one is a little bit lighter than the others. But this is Fiber for the People Hemp Merino Sport, which is a sport weight, 70% organic merino and 30% hemp base in the color Lantana. And this yarn is insane. Wonderful, amazing, incredible, highly recommend. Get you some. I will probably get myself some more because it's so good. It is this lovely heathered look because of the hemp content, and it just feels so nice. It's so soft and squishy and bouncy, but holds its shape really well because that hemp content really like gives it a little bit of structure. So good. Highly recommend. And that is it, I think, for this. I just need to, I'll probably put one of the sleeves on needles today and start the first sleeve. Oh, I did want to show you how well I managed my yarn for this. For the body, I wanted to knit all of the yarn that I had left for that specific ball of yarn. And since I did a tubular bind off, I had to have enough yarn to sew the tubular bind off. And this is how much yarn I had left. I'm so proud of myself. I had enough to do my tubular bind off and I didn't waste any because this isn't enough for a whole nother round. I just wanted to brag on myself for a second because I'm so proud. So proud. Now I can cut that off because I've actually already woven in this end. I've woven in all the ends I think so far that I can. They're just not trimmed yet. I'm really doing a good job of staying ahead of myself with this one. And I can put the Progress Keeper elsewhere for now, because next time you see it, we'll know where I was. Let me stick that on the bag here. There's a little like loop inside this bag. It's really nice. There we go. And that's it. That is my trumpet pullover. The last whip I have is my new cast on. A little bit of background. This new cast on is also my only acquisition. I did buy a couple of needles, but I'm not really counting those. Yes, this pattern specifically has been in my favorites for a very long time. And it is a shawl pattern, which I have not been in a shawl mood for like a really long time. But going through my stash and stuff, I have like my miscellaneous shelf. And a lot of times I'll sit down and I'll look at my miscellaneous shelf and I'll think, okay, well, what shawls can I make with any of these? Because a lot of them are like one or two skeins, skeins that are multiple colors but go together, kinds of stuff like that. So I'll go through my shawl favorites list on Ravelry and I'll always stop and look at this one, and finally decided the other day, when was it, last Thursday? Yes, last Thursday, because it was my first day training at my local yarn shop to work there. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But while I was there, they had the yarn I wanted, or we had the yarn I wanted, and I decided I was just gonna go ahead and get it. And I cast on that night. This pattern is there a page that doesn't tell you anything? No, I didn't print out a cover page or anything. But that's fine. It is the Guernsey Triangle by Jared Flood. It is a Brooklyn tweed pattern, and it is a very simple textured triangle shawl. It has a very similar vibe to like those traditional like Outlander style shawls where it's just like a really rustic wool textured triangle, but it's obviously called the Guernsey Triangle. It's based off of Guernsey textures, like the textures they would use on Guernsey sweaters, traditional Guernsey sweaters. And I just love the look of it. It's just really my vibe. And I had a very specific idea in my head of what kind of yarn I wanted for it. And the yarn I picked isn't exactly it, but I'm still like so happy with it. It's a really good, almost what I wanted, but more fun, if that makes any sense. I'll show it to you so you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm using actually the called for yarn in the pattern, which is Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is a fingering weight, worsted spun, woolen spun yarn, a fingering weight woolen spun yarn, all American, sheep, spinning, dyeing, all of that. And I got the color Meteorite, which is this dark chocolatey brown, but it has these amazing fun like primary speckles in it. I didn't think at all that this is the kind of color I would go for, but I saw it and I was like, I need it. I need it. It calls for 3 skeins of it for the large size, which is the size I'm making. They also have a small size that's more like a kerchief, but it calls for 3 skeins. I think according to the yardage, you only use like 2 and a bit of these for the large size. I think I'm gonna knit it. I'm gonna add sections until I use all the yarn. I don't want any left over. And the bigger the better, right? I have this much of the first ball left. That probably doesn't tell you very much. But I started this, well, I bought the stuff on Thursday. Today's Monday. I might have cast on Thursday night. I can't remember. But I am this far. Ooh. Let's not pull things off the needles here. This far. Oh my gosh, look at her on camera. You can really, that texture really pops on camera. I love that. Because it looks a little bit lighter on camera than it does in real life. It's really rich and dark and deep in real life. But look at those textured sections. It's just like this, it's just these 2 textures repeated. But it's also got these like ribbed sections between. And it's got a really interesting edge sort of detail. And I'm using these really fun stitch markers from Sassafras Knits. There we go. And I'm using these markers for all of them, so it's nice and jingly jangly. I'm using a progress keeper to mark the beginning of a chart so that I can easily count the number of rows I've worked for that chart, so I know when I'm done with the chart. And I just finished a chart, so on my next row I'll move it up. But it is flying by. It's gonna fly less and less fast because I'm getting bigger and bigger, but I'm still really enjoying this. Just knitting it is a joy. The yarn, the pattern, texture is really just where it's at for me. The perfect compromise between vanilla and something interesting. Just give me all the texture. I've always been a texture fan. This really is like a perfect pattern for me. And because it is woolen spun, there we go. Because it is woolen spun, it is going to be so warm and so cozy. And it is a pretty simple, like basic color. It's not like a Stephen West shawl or something that I've knit for myself that's really adventurous and bright. So Brad could also wear this if he wanted to, like a scarf style. He's not quite as adventurously vibrant as I am when it comes to his accessories. He likes more simple stuff, so love it. I love it so much. I'm so excited about this project. Just holding it makes me want to knit it. You know it's good. You know it's good when that's how it goes. And that's it. That's it for my whips. Hi, Future Leigh here, popping in with weirder hair and less makeup and a less cute shirt. I did, though, want to film this clip 2 days later than I filmed all of the other clips because I did want to talk about one more whip that I have. I contemplated not showing this because I just haven't been showing it because I haven't been working on it, but I have a sewing whip that I mentioned many episodes ago. And since Monday, when I filmed all of the other clips, today is Wednesday, by the way, did I say that? Yes, since Monday, I picked this up and am now getting really close to finishing it. So I did want to mention it in this episode because it might be finished by next episode. It might not be, but in case it is, I didn't want the finished object to be the first time you saw it. So here's a quick update on my, oh, where's the top? Where's the top? Here. Hand sewn skirt. This is a linen skirt that I am making entirely by hand. I mentioned it briefly that I drafted it myself and I am sewing it entirely by hand. It's been a whip for a while, but I wanted to give you some details because I'm getting really close and I'm really excited about it. As you can see, it is a pretty basic skirt. I have it folded in fourths right now. It is open all the way down the front, open all the way down the front, and will be buttoned down the front. I think I'm going to do hook and eye closures just at the very top, and then the rest of the front will be buttons. It's pleated and it does have pockets. It has 2 pockets, which are backwards. I've made lots of mistakes on this piece actually, but one of them is that the pockets are backwards. But you know what? It's fine. They will still hold things, and when I sit down, things are less likely to fall out of them. I just can't stand with my hands in my pockets. So that's fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Details about it. I am using Burnley and Trowbridge linen. It is this beautiful pumpkin linen. It is very, very lovely. So beautiful. I am also using Burnley and Trowbridge. I have my little sewing cookie tin here. Classic. I am using Burnley and Trowbridge linen thread as well for my hand sewing. This is one that I have not opened. This is the linen thread in the size 50/3. This will be for my buttonholes. The one that I'm using for general sewing is the 80/3 thread in the same color, and the color is called Londonberry. Just kidding, Londonderry, which is not an exact match to my pumpkin linen, but is so close. I also am using needles that I got from Burnley and Trowbridge. If you're interested in this at all, I don't know if you're interested in this at all, but since I am hand sewing, I wanted to give you all of the details I could about the hand sewing process. Ah, here we are. I'm using bow hand needles, and I'm using the number 10 betweens, which are really short and very sharp. I also from Burnley and Trowbridge, bought my little block of beeswax. While I was ordering thread and needles and stuff, I figured I'd go ahead and order it there too, but I got a block of beeswax from Burnley and Trowbridge as well. You can see it's a little bit red on top from my red linen thread, but I have to wax my thread before I sew with it, so I have that as well. I got basically everything from Burnley and Trowbridge. I also got hook and eyes from Burnley and Trowbridge. Burnley and Trowbridge, by the way, if you have not heard of them, are a historical sewing resource in Virginia. They sell period-specific, period-accurate supplies for historical sewing. They also sell a couple of modern fabrics every once in a while that are inspired by historical fabrics, but they also have a lot of actual like classic fabrics like woolen, worsted wools and linens and cottons, lots of really gorgeous stuff. I have, well, I don't know exactly where I was when I last talked about it, but in the last couple of days I have completely stitched down the waistband for the second time. I stitched it down once and then flipped it and then stitched it down again. I top stitched here. So that is done. And I also hemmed the entire bottom. So this is what it looks like from the outside. Of course, I got lint on it right where I was showing it to you. This is what it looks like from the outside. It is just whip stitched all the way down. I folded it up twice and whip stitched it. And since it was taking so long for me to finish this piece, I decided that what I was gonna do is just wing it for the hem and the waistband. Like, the length is right. It was measured when it was cut, but I basically just eyeballed the folding of them because it's not an exact science, and that's fine. It's a handmade skirt. So yeah, I have button bands stitched down and marked as well. I did a running stitch along the edge just for, it's not gonna focus. There we go, a running stitch along the edge for looks. A little bit of structure, but mostly just for the look. But I've already marked where all my buttons are gonna go. And all I have left is I need to tack down these little top bits where the hook and eye closures are gonna go, and sew on the hooks and eyes, and then sew on the buttons, and sew buttonholes. The buttonholes will probably take me a while. So it actually may not be done by the time you see it next, but I did want to mention it now. This seems like a good place to mention it. I also have the buttons that I'm going to use. Are they in here? They are. I am using these vintage buttons that I bought off of Etsy. I like buying vintage buttons because I like buying sustainably. And these are also, I especially like buying vintage buttons because I like natural material buttons. I'm not a huge fan of, like, some plastic buttons are cute, but I really like buttons made of natural materials, but I don't want to buy new buttons made of natural materials because I don't want to have that environmental impact. But these are, there we go. These are mussel shell buttons, and they're so pretty. A lot of them have this really beautiful opalescent sheen. They're brown mussel shell, and they are a little less than ½ an inch. They might be ½ an inch, but I'm gonna be using 14 or 15, something like that, of them down the front of the skirt. And it is going to be fun. I'm very excited to finish this. I've been very much in a sewing mood lately, which is why the reason this has been on the go for so long is because I go through like bursts of sewing and then I don't do it for like a month or two. It's really inefficient. But I'm still in a sewing burst right now, so I'm going to try to get at least my hooks and eyes and all of this stuff finished today, everything except the, wow, that wind was wild out there. I heard something fall. I'm gonna have to go check that out later. But yeah, I'm gonna finish everything except the buttons and buttonholes today. Honestly, I would really like to get my buttons put on today too. That doesn't take very long. So if I can get all that done today and then just have buttonholes left, I think I'll be able to finish this pretty quickly. But yeah, that was the last whip I wanted to mention in this episode. I even came back from the future to tell you about it. I've also tried it on a little bit and it fits perfectly, even though the pockets are backwards. We don't have to talk about it though, it's fine. Mistakes are normal, and that's it. You can go back to present daily. Oh, I did frog something, also exciting. Was it the last episode or the episode before that I talked to you about my We Are Knitters t-shirt that was like hiding in the closet for an eternity, and I decided I was gonna pull it out and finish it? I can't remember. But in one of the last couple of episodes, that happened. I had a We Are Knitters t-shirt that I had knit all the pieces for but had not seamed together, and it had been just lingering for a really long time, just putting weight on me. You know how they do when things just linger, it just adds pressure and weight to you. And I sat down and I started sewing on it again, and it wasn't turning out good. I just didn't like it. I think when I knit the pieces, I wasn't experienced enough to be able to give myself proper selvages, which I really like to do. And I wasn't as good at managing my tension of cast-ons and bind-offs either. So the arms were a little bit tight, the armpit holes were a little bit tight. It just didn't, none of it was right. So I frogged it. I'm leaning because it's all in this bowl right here. This bowl is full of my t-shirt. I am actually super pleased with this decision. I sat down and I had a whole ball of this yarn left over anyway from when I started that top. And now I'm going to knit something that I love out of this yarn. This is We Are Knitters the Cotton. It is a deep stash now that it's been frogged and is returned to my stash. But it's a lovely color. It's a lovely yarn. I'm gonna knit myself a nice summery something out of it and have something that I actually love to work on and will wear. So yeah, pretty proud of myself for that one. Pretty proud. I already talked about my plans for summer sock camp, how I want to clear off everything for summer sock camp. I want to sit down with a calendar and see exactly how that's gonna go. I can plan out how it's gonna go, because when I start the sleeves of my trumpet, I should have a better idea of how long it's actually gonna take me to finish my trumpet. And today is Monday, so this week I would really like to finish my waffle socks, my waffle socks. So if I can get those finished, that'll be all my socks done. I do have that Christmas pair of socks. I would like to finish those. I actually did work on them just a little bit this weekend. I did like 8 rows or something, or 8 rounds. But we'll see. I'm almost at the heel, maybe. Those are up in the air. I'm not gonna put pressure on myself to finish them, but I'm not counting them out either. But if I can finish my waffle socks, finish weaving in the ends of my Seaborn tee, and finish my envelope cowl maybe, I feel like I'll be in a good place. I obviously would also like to finish more than that if I can, but I'm not gonna put pressure on myself to finish more than that because I also still have my striped socks for May to do, which will be, by the way, George from Desert Vista Dye Works, self-striping yarn. This will be my May self-striping socks. I think that's gonna be my goal. I think my goal is gonna be to finish my waffle socks, finish weaving in the ends on my Seaborn tee, and finish my envelope cowl before summer sock camp starts. Anything extra is extra and will be great. Is that all I've worked on? That is all I've worked on. Yeah, I don't have plans to cast anything on immediately because of summer sock camp. I really just want to get things done so that I am free to knit all of the socks. And I've mentioned before that I have not really been in a socky mood, but I also have a couple of friends in my knit group who have decided that they really want to start learning to love socks. So their excitement for socks has been getting me excited for socks. And I think we're gonna be knitting a lot of socks together. So that's exciting. I have quite a stash. I would love to make a dent in my sock stash. I'll probably be knitting a couple of Christmas socks in July because I love a Christmas in July. That's it, I think, except one more little bit I have is Maryland sheep and wool. I believe, as of right now, I'm going to Maryland sheep and wool. It will be my first time going to Maryland sheep and wool, and will also be my first time going to a wool festival at all. I sound a little bit unsure because it's not very far from me. I mean, it is. It's 3.5 hours away, which sounds kind of far, I guess, but it isn't very far in my brain. That's not a very far ride. I'm gonna leave early in the morning and I'm gonna spend the day there, and then I'm gonna leave at the end of the day and come back home. So I'm not even staying in Maryland. I am literally just gonna go for the day, and I'm very excited. I was on the fence for a very long time because I wasn't sure if I was gonna go or not, but I got Brad to request those days off, that weekend off, just in case I needed the car, because we only have one. And he did, just in case I wanted to go. But now that it's getting closer, I'm getting hyped for it. So I think I'm gonna go. I might actually go ahead and buy my ticket. And it'll just be me, so it'll be really chill. It'll be really nice. I won't have to rely on anyone else's schedule. I can just get in my car in the morning, go, do what I want, and then go home. Oh man, I'm getting excited about it now. Hopefully I see some people there, people I watch on the internet. I know that there are a couple people who I follow on Instagram who are going to be going. So let's just try not to spend too much money. That's all I can ask for. But I've been trying really hard not to buy any other stuff so that I will have a little bit to spend when I go there. But that's all I got today. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't know if this is going to be, I think this might be a bit of a shorter episode, but I think that's okay. I feel like it was pretty packed with goodies, lots of FOs, some news about Maryland sheep and wool, some excitement about summer sock camp, and I will see you guys in the next one.